Možeš snimati. Cool. Okay, so continuing with our guard play series. Last time I explained why keeping feet on our opponent is very important and how you can design some exemplary games of this. Next part is like being offensive from guard will oftentimes have something to do with putting my opponent's hips onto the mat. Right? So if he's standing above me, this affords me some things, but I'm very limited in my attacks. I cannot, for instance, ankle lock him easily if his hips are up and he can keep weight on his legs. So, designing games that revolve around putting my opponent's hips onto the mat and holding them there is a very nice starting point if you're looking to improve your students' guard play. But what we have to be very careful with is you cannot just tell them, stand up, you cannot just tell them put his hips on the mat, because if Nico puts both of his hands on the mat and goes into a foreplay, it'll be almost impossible now for me to put his hips on the mat while staying in guard position. I could, of course, stand up and wrestle, but let's say we're working on guard, right? I cannot put his hips on the mat. So you would have to make two conditions that are my task goals. I want to either keep his hands on the mat. This maybe is not a good winning condition because it's very easy to do this. So maybe if I can hold his hands on the mat, I am winning. And then getting his hips on the mat as a secondary option, or primary if he doesn't put his hands on the mat. And now it's very important to constrain and direct the top player in a similar way, right? So we stand up. I have to give him something to work towards. If I just tell him to resist me, that's going to be confusing and boring for the top player. So I can tell Nico, you want to strip feet from yourself and keep them off of you while keeping your hips up and your hands off the mat. Hands off the mat plays into the stripping the feet because you need hands to strip the feet, and if your hands are on the mat, you can't strip the feet, obviously, right? So as an example game would be, I'm looking to get his hips onto the mat and his hands onto the mat. If hips touch the mat, I win. Hands touch the mat, nothing happens, but I'm winning. And basically we would start them in a connect position such as this, like a regular X guard, and basically tell them, okay, resist and strip feet. I'm putting hips and hands into the mat. And that'll be a very nice, properly constrained and properly set up game for your students to use. Cheers.